What is better, Texas style or Kansas City style brisket? We're gonna find out in this barbecue battle, so let's get smoking. Welcome to the Smoke Lab. My name is Steve Gow, and on this show I do crazy barbecue experiments you would never do at home, so you can learn from my trial and error. Kansas City or Texas? Who does better brisket? I visited top barbecue joints in Texas and Kansas City and found there was a big difference in how they cook their briskets. Texas style briskets are savory and peppery. They have a meteoric dark bark and excellent fat cap rendering from the top-down convective heat of Texas style offset smokers. They're cooked whole with the point and flat muscles attached to each other, then they're sliced in half and the point and flat are cut into 1/4-inch slices with a few burnt ends left over from the point. Texas style brisket does not use sauce, and any self-respecting Texas pitmaster will tell you it doesn't need it because it's good enough to stand on its own. Kansas City style brisket, on the other hand, is much more sweet and saucy. Briskets are either cooked whole and then the point and flat are separated afterwards, or it's separated from the start. The entire point is then cubed up and sauced to create KC style burnt ends, and the flat is either sliced into 1/4-inch slices or sliced super thin to put on sandwiches. Burnt ends and slices are often served sauced, but sometimes not, and the expectation is that you sauce them yourselves. In any event, you're expected to eat KC style brisket with sauce. I didn't really get KC style brisket for a long time. When I visited Joe's KC, they served me thinly sliced, kind of dry flat slices, and I was like, what the heck is this? And then I started to understand that the expectation is that you should sauce the slices heavily and make a little sandwich with them. And once I figured that out, it kind of clicked for me. I'm like, oh, okay, it's supposed to be kind of more like deli meat, not like a thick Texas style flat slice. Now, this isn't the only way to do a KC style brisket, but it's my take on it, and it's mainly inspired by Joe's KC, where they slice their brisket thin, and also Q39 and other Kansas City barbecue joints where they serve all their burnt ends pre-sauced, which I personally think is the way to go. A lot of KC barbecue joints serve their brisket unsauced, including their burnt ends, and I feel like it just leaves things a little bit too open for a customer to have a bad experience because they just take the burnt end, they eat it, they don't sauce it first. You really need that sauce to experience good Kansas City style brisket. So for this barbecue battle video, I'm cooking a KC style brisket with burnt ends and thin flat slices like Joe's KC, and I'm putting it head to head with a traditional Texas style brisket. I'm starting with a Texas style brisket, trimming it by slicing the flap off the point, then slicing the fat cap down to around 1/4-inch. This one was actually pretty good, so I didn't have to do much trimming to it. Rounded out the flat a little bit, and that's it. I just flip it over. I don't remove the silver skin on the bottom, just slathering it with some Maggie seasoning sauce just to add a little bit of base layer flavor and help the rub stick. Then I'm laying down some Smoke Trails BBQ brisket rub, giving that a nice coating on the bottom. Now I'm flipping the brisket over, slathering it with some more seasoning sauce, and then a thick layer of more Smoke Trails BBQ brisket rub on top. If you don't have a Texas style rub, you can just make your own with a 1/4 cup kosher salt, 1/4 cup black pepper, and a 1/4 cup Lowry's seasoned salt. For the Kansas City style brisket, I've decided to cook the point and flat separately, so I'm slicing down the seam between them and parting the two muscles. Next, I'm squaring up both muscles and then applying some Maggie sauce as a binder to both muscles, just like the Texas style brisket. Then I'm applying some Meat Mitch rub, which is more on the sweet side. Meat Mitch is an excellent KC barbecue joint, and every time I go down there, I pick up their sauces and rubs. Really good. If there was such a thing as a quintessential KC barbecue joint, it would have to be Meat Mitch's, and they do a great job at it. Finally, I'm adding a light layer of Smoke Trails BBQ brisket rub for some extra pepper, and then we're done. Moving outside, I'm lighting up my Oklahoma Joe's Longhorn offset smoker. I like to start with a base of charcoal and then add a few wood splits on top of that. I hit it with my propane torch for a minute to light it up, and after that's started, I'll be aiming for around 250 degrees Fahrenheit and ramping up to 300 degrees later in the cook. Now the briskets go on the smoker. The KC style flat is going in a pan. This keeps it juicy and also helps it slide a little bit as it cooks and scrunches up, so it makes big fat slices. I'm foiling the leading edges of both briskets for some extra protection, and I also have a water pan set up to the right, which soaks up some of the heat from the firebox and evens out the chamber temps. An hour and a half later, I'm dumping the juices out of the foil pan and flipping the KC style flat to get bark and smoke on the other side. And another hour and a half later, I'm giving the briskets a spritz and removing the water pan. Then I'm ramping temps up to around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. The meat is getting sweaty now, so I don't need a water pan to protect it, and I can also safely increase the temperature. Another hour and a half later, I'm flipping the KC style point and flat, giving it a hit of some more rub to build up layers of flavor. And another hour and a half later, I'm flipping the KC style brisket again, spritzing it and rubbing it again, and also taking the Texas style brisket out and foil boating it, then putting it back in. The foil boat is going to help it retain moisture and cook it a lot faster. An hour and a half later, the KC style brisket has enough bark development, so I'm foiling both of them to speed things up. And another hour and a half later, we're 9 hours in now, the KC style flat is around 190 internal, so I'm pulling it off the smoker. It's still tough, but the style we're going for is thinly sliced, so undercooked, but we'll slice it thin to make up for it. Finally, jumping forward 3 more hours, both the KC point and Texas style brisket are probing around 195 degrees, so I'm pulling them out. If you want to eat them right away, i.e. in 2 hours, just take them up to 203 degrees until they are super tender, rest them 2 hours, and then you can eat them. But with this method, I pull at 195 and then I hold them overnight in my holding oven. I'm now wrapping the Texas style brisket in butcher paper and aluminum foil with some ghee. The butcher paper stops the brisket from basically reacting with the aluminum. Now, this requires a little bit of explanation. Pretend this is a brisket. When you put a brisket in aluminum foil and set it down onto a steel pan or a steel oven rack, then the steel in the oven rack or the pan acts as a cathode, the aluminum foil acts as an anode, and the salty brisket in the middle acts as an electrolyte, which basically forms a battery. Yes, you heard me right, it makes a brisket battery. Now, you couldn't power your pellet grill with it, but as a result of this battery action, it does create an electrical current, which can cause an effect called galvanic corrosion on top of the aluminum foil, which results in little tiny pinpricks, and you'll also see little flakes of foil on top of your meat, which is very unappetizing if that happens. So to prevent that, I like to wrap my brisket in butcher paper first to basically block that electrolyte from reacting with the steel and the aluminum, and that solves the problem. Okay, now everything's going in the holding oven at 150 overnight, and we'll slice into it the next day. Like I said before, if you don't want to hold it overnight, you just want to eat it the same day, then take your briskets up to 203, 205, probe tender till they're super tender, rest them 2 hours, and then eat them. With the thinly sliced KC style flat, if that's what you're cooking, I'd probably pull it at around 195 degrees, then rest it 2 hours, then slice it thin. In this case, I'm pulling the flat at 190 and then holding overnight. And with the Texas style brisket and the KC style point slice, I took them to around 195, which is still slightly undercooked. I'll hold it for 18 hours at 150 in my holding oven, and then it'll be super tender. All right, guys, it is the next day, and I'm pulling the Kansas style brisket out of the holding oven here. We're gonna start with the KC style brisket, and then we'll move on to the Texas style one. I'm gonna open this up. I forget what this is actually. Is this the point or the flat? This is the flat. So we'll pull the flat out, and it has quite a bit of liquid in there. Just gonna put that to the side because we'll probably use it for our sauce in a second. Now let's cut into this guy, starting right here. Now I undercooked this guy a little bit because we're gonna shave it super thin. It's a lot easier if you do this with a deli slicer. I guess this is one of the advantages of doing a Texas style brisket. You don't have to spend all day slicing the brisket super thin, because this is pretty time consuming. All right, let's take a look at these slices. They're paper thin, so obviously they're gonna be quite tender. They pull apart quite easily. Very nice flavor, I like it so far. Okay, now I'm gonna take some of my juices and I'm going to pour some Meat Mitch Womp sauce, which is straight from Kansas City, Overland Park. Great restaurant if you ever get a chance to visit Overland Park in Kansas City. Meat Mitch is the place to go. Very good food, very good representative food of the traditional Kansas City style. I'm gonna mix that up a little bit. And then I'm just gonna dunk these slices in here. Okay, now moving on to the Kansas City style burnt ends. We'll open up this guy. And I am just gonna make some cubes. Pretty small, but still a decent size. Give you guys a look here, nice and tender. I'll just do a couple of them, but we just wanna make little cubes. Some people like to make big old honker cubes. I like to make little ones. And then I'm taking some Meat Mitch Womp sauce diluted with some apple cider vinegar, and we're just gonna put these burnt ends right in there. We'll put these guys up front. A little bit more sauce on these guys. And now we're gonna move on to our Texas style brisket. So this thing is super dark and barky. Give give you guys a look. Very juicy, very nice looking brisket. Dunked it in some tallow here. All right, let's start with the Texas style brisket because that's what I'm most familiar with. So this is a typical Texas style burnt end. There's not as many of them, obviously, because we didn't cut up the entire point. They're usually just from the edges of the point, so that's why we get a few, but those few are typically really good. Super savory, super peppery, super delicious. Couldn't really ask for more. Let's take a point slice here. We'll pull this apart. Pulls apart very easily. Some nice fat cap rendering. Perfect Texas style brisket, nice fat cap rendering, salt, pepper forward. This brisket was a little bit on the lean side, but it still came out really good. Now let's try the Kansas City style burnt ends here. So this is a typical Kansas City style burnt end. If you're in Kansas City, they might come sauced or unsauced. Personally, I like when they come sauced because you can just pop them in your mouth. You don't have to do anything extra. That's good. These make you just want to keep shoveling these things into your mouth. Delicious, love it. Same texture as the Texas style burnt ends, but the sauce just adds a lot, especially if you like sweet barbecue sauce. This just goes really good with burnt ends. And now the flat slices. Again, this is a little bit weird to me because in Kansas City, in some barbecue restaurants like Joe's KC, they slice the brisket really thin and they are meant to be served on buns. You're supposed to put them in a bun and sauce them up. You know, maybe put some pickles on there, some other toppings, and that is how you are supposed to eat it. So they undercook the brisket a little bit, they shave it, put it on a bun, make a sandwich, and it's delicious. If you get served these things by themselves and they're not sauced, they're a little bit dry, that's where you can run into problems because you're like, what is this? I've been to Texas before and I've eaten the best brisket in the world, and then they serve you up these dry, thinly sliced slices of flat. You're supposed to sauce them, you're supposed to eat them on a sandwich. That's how they're intended to be served. There is another style of Kansas City brisket flat where it's a little bit thicker. It's more like a Texas style slice, and then you are also expected to put your own sauce on it. But let's see how this tastes because this is really unfamiliar to me. This was undercooked and then kind of thinly sliced. Because it is thinly sliced, it is a lot more tender than it would be if it was thicker. It's good. It's got more of like a kind of deli meat type flavor, and it's sweeter, obviously. It's still pretty tender because it's been thinly sliced. It kind of reminds me of Montreal smoked meat. Montreal smoked meat is also from the brisket. It's kind of like pastrami. They smoke it, but they kind of undercook it, and then they shave it thin, and you put it on rye bread with mustard and stack it up. So it's kind of similar to this concept. You stack up the different layers, put it in a sandwich, and you can make a nice, tasty sandwich. But the big question, which one is better? Well, I don't think any particular style is worse or better than the other. I think it's just up to your personal preference, and a lot of times I generally prefer Texas style brisket because that's normally what I cook and I'm used to it, but I love having Kansas City style burnt ends once in a while. If I was making sandwiches for friends and I knew that I had a brisket flat that I needed to cook, I might actually consider doing it Kansas City style, in particular Joe's KC style, where they undercook it, then shave it thin, because I do really like the flavor profile of this meat. It's a little bit more like shaved brisket, and you can stack it on a bun and you can get a bite through multiple layers of meat. I think that would be really good if I was making brisket sandwiches. But personally, my favorite bite of barbecue out of this is the brisket point. I think brisket point is the king of barbecue, followed up by a close second of the Kansas City style burnt ends. I love the sweetness and the fact that it's a completely rendered point cube, and then followed up by Texas style flat slices and these Kansas City style flat slices in the shaved Joe's KC style. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Do you prefer Texas style brisket or Kansas City style brisket? As always, let me know if you have any ideas for future Smoke Lab videos, and until next time, happy smoking.